Hey, what's up guys? So, let's talk about Attack on Titan chapter 110. Sorry it's taken me so long to get this out. I came down with a really nasty bug, so I've been sick for the past, 3 weeks. Man, I'm still a little bit sick, as you can probably tell from my voice. So sorry about the wait, but let's get to this. Of course, before we go any further, I want to let you know that this video is going to contain spoilers, so if you haven't read the manga, then what are you doing with your life? Seriously though, if you don't want spoilers, you might want to click on something else. If you're all caught up though, then let's get to it. Okay, so we begin this chapter with a flashback of Renko Village, and we get to see how the people there were actually changed into Titans. Now we already knew it had something to do with Zeke's spinal fluid, but we weren't exactly sure how it happened, and it turns out, I don't know if I ever said this in a video or not, but I feel like at one point I was wondering whether it was like a shout or something like that. Probably because of Eren, the way that he could shout and control the coordinate when he came in contact with Dinah. But also, we did see that for the first time, turning people into Titans during the Marley arc. Remember when they had that airship full of people who were all tied up and they were like drooling on themselves, and they dropped them from the ship, and Zeke shouted and they all burst into Titans. Well, now we know why they were all tied up and drooling. It's because they had literally lost control of their body. I'm guessing they must have used gas on these people too, because we know that directly injecting people turns them into Titans like right away. So that's kind of another creepy World War II-esque situation in this story. But anyway, we see them letting loose this gas. The Marley soldiers have gas masks on, of course, which, since they're not aliens, wouldn't it not affect them anyway? I guess it pays to be safe. But they let out this gas, and we see all the people, they're coughing, they're falling over, and then Zeke shouts. And the whole village explodes into these Titans. The Titans that we saw in Season 2. We come back from the flashback to present day, and we see Levi and Zeke having a little friendly chat. And Zeke's basically trying to convince Levi that he's on their side and that his only goal is the restoration of Eldia. Levi, of course, he's too smart for that. He's not buying it at all. What's funny is when Zeke tells Levi, "I bet you're not popular with the ladies." Clearly he's never met the Attack on Titan fanbase. And I'm not really sure what that has anything to do with this situation, but I'm thinking it's probably just another tactic Zeke's trying to use to control the conversation, or maybe confuse Levi, get a reaction out of him, who knows. And it almost seems in this panel that he might be getting to Levi a little bit. Zeke says you shouldn't go around assuming to understand what other people feel, and Levi's like, "But I do." And I've been popular before. Don't let him ruin your confidence, Levi. You literally have millions more results on Google than Zeke has. But after that, Zeke asks again when he's gonna meet up with Eren. Levi tells him they're waiting for orders from HQ, and Zeke says, let them know they'd be mistaken to think they have all the time in the world. And that's one thing Levi actually agrees with him on. Next up, we see Pixis and Yelena again. And Yelena, of course, is also trying to manipulate Pixis, but she is a lot less good at it than Zeke is. Not sure how long this interrogation has been so far, but it seems like she finally breaks down and admits that she met Eren that day. However, she denies that she tried to convince Eren to go along with Zeke's plan, behind the backs of everybody else. She also presses the importance of making a decision sooner than later. She keeps denying that she overtly tried to convince Eren to do what he did in Marley, even though she also kind of admits it as well. But she emotionally claims that her motivation was really just to meet Eren, because she has such high reverence for him, and she wanted him to know who she was, and she wanted to be recognized by him. But she claims it wasn't her intention to convince him or coerce him in some way to take the actions that he did. What she ultimately declares is that the fate of everyone involved in this is really dependent on the choices of Eren himself and Zeke, and she more so wanted to know what his ideology was, rather than try to influence to take on one. So basically it sounds like she's admitting everything that actually happened, except she's not taking any accountability for her true motivations, which we know is a lot more than, this fangirling nonsense. I mean, she is kind of a fangirl, obviously, to Zeke and Eren, but, look at those eyes. But she's basically just trying to pretend she's just totally innocent, and she was just being naive and stupid and oopsie daisy, my bad. Like, I'm a cute girl. Forgive me. I'm so innocent. But Pixis doesn't seem to buy a word of it. He says he'd like to believe her, but she doesn't know how to lie very good, basically. He says, you know how to tell a good lie? Mix in a little bit of truth from time to time. And he tells her, how about you tell me everything you and Eren said to each other? Next we get a scene with Anyakapon and Hanji. And out of these three non-Paradisians, Anyakapon definitely seems the most honest and sincere. And I love that he and Hanji have this kind of little quirky rapport going on. He tells her that he's disappointed in her, and he's kind of lecturing her on the choices that they've made lately, giving her all these reasons why they shouldn't have done this. I think it's safe to say that whatever is going on with Yelena and ZEKE, Anyakapon is completely unaware of it. Hanji says she doesn't even have an excuse to give him, but for now it just can't be helped. And then something kind of weird happens. Hanji leans over the desk really dramatically and stares Anyakapon in the face, and it's like he can read her mind or something. He says, what? Yelena? She admitted to meeting with Eren in secret? Really? And Hanji's like, you didn't know? And then Hanji says something interesting. She says, you're not saying she'd never do something like that. Is that because you could imagine her being capable of it? Then Anyakapon looks away and is kind of like, well... So Hanji's like, I know the justification came after the fact, but now we have the reason we need to detain the volunteers. Tell me everything you know about Yelena, to help us plan what to do next. So Anyakapon tells her everything he knows. He says he knows that Yelena was the one who organized the volunteers under the banner of Zeke's secret plan. He tells her that Yelena would often kill Marleyans who suspected them or who doubted them in order to show her dedication to the restoration of Eldia and demonstrate her resolve against Marley, and that the rest of them would always justify it by believing in their common cause. He then tells Hanji he doesn't know why Yelena would secretly meet with Eren. Hanji points out the inconsistency that despite Yelena's ruthlessness before, she had now gone out of her way to keep the Marleyans that had come to the island alive and even give them a decent quality of life. Anyakapon says that the volunteers themselves thought she was just trying to make up for how she had treated Marleyans in the past. But she even fought with the Paradis government over the human rights of the Marleyan soldiers, always being careful not to cast any doubts on the volunteers. Hanji seems to realize something, and she tells Anyakapon to come with her. Anyakapon sounds pretty reluctant, but I think it's safe to say that he's probably going along with it anyway. After that, we get a very amusing scene between Armin and Hitch in the cellar where Annie is being held in the crystal. He decides to try and touch the crystal, and Hitch is like, hey! No molestering down there, Armin! And Armin's like, what? I wasn't molestering! I'm not a molester! Yeah, come on, Hitch. Armin would never do that. Armin's not a pervert. Well, I guess there was that Chibi episode where he found that porn magazine and then wanted to spy on the girls in their room, but... Okay, maybe Armin is kind of a pervert.
Oh my god!
Anyway, he tries to explain to her that Titan shifters have the ability to possibly pass on memories by coming into physical contact. And it says, well, you are a boy. I can see how you'd be interested in all that information Annie has to offer. Which is pretty funny. Armin kind of stammers and he's all sweating and shit. And she shoves the newspaper in his mouth. She says, don't worry, I'm not gonna ban you. I'm sure it's boring having me as her only conversational partner. And then she looks at Annie and says, I can't believe you. How are you this popular when all you do is sleep? So outside, Hitch hands Armin the newspaper, which reads, the Corps continue to cling to power as they unjustly detain Eren Jaeger. They betrayed the volunteers and taken all the profits for themselves. Armin notes that the people are really starting to distrust the Survey Corps, and Hitch says they won't say anything in response to satisfy them either. Armin says, well, they can't tell them the truth yet, so they have to hurry and figure out whose side Eren is truly on. They walk by and they see the protesters at the gate. They're screaming things like, free Eren! Only Eren can save Eldia! Only Eren Jaeger can avenge our eaten citizens! There is no new Eldian Empire without Eren Jaeger! They're also shouting things like, slaughter the Marleyans! Ooh, that's scary. The world history is a Marleyan fabrication, blah 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 blah. Hitch tells Armin that the protesters have surrounded every local Corps office, and it also seems like it's getting worse. So Mikasa meets up with Armin, and they notice a few new recruits that seem to be a bit out of place there. Mikasa dismisses it though, and tells Armin we've finally been given this chance, we can't waste it. Let's go. So they meet with Zachary. Zachary says it seems that Hanji is running around like mad, as always. But then he tells them, I can't allow you to meet Eren. Mikasa and Armin are clearly surprised by this, and Armin asks why is that? He tells them that they are now certain that the volunteers had contact with him, that Eren concealed this meeting for 10 months before the assault on Marley, and that their investigation of the mastermind behind these meetings is now ongoing. And he says, but Eren has maintained his silence ever since these facts were brought to light, and they have no idea what all he did while he was in Marley either. He says they can't carry out this experiment in the current conditions, and that they now believe that Eren is being controlled by ZEKE. Not only that, but he wants Armin and Mikasa to stay silent about it. Mikasa's clearly concerned. She says, what's gonna happen to Eren? And then they look over and see Zachary's art project. Mikasa says, what is that? Zachary says, it's nothing. There was nowhere else to put it, so I had the recruits bring it here. Trust me, Mikasa, you don't want to know what that is. They get back to the conversation and Armin's like, but sir, we've known Eren since we were all children. If he's staying silent, couldn't we be of use to you? I know there's no guarantee that we can get Eren to speak the truth, but there can't be any harm in trying. Zachary just says, this situation requires great caution. That is all. And then he just dismisses them. Standing outside his office, Mikasa asks why. So Armin and Mikasa are walking down the hall, kind of whispering to each other, and Armin says, if I had to think of a reason, it could be that the military government has already given up on Eren. They turn and see 3 military police officers enter Zachary's office. Then Armin realizes, if that was the case, they've already started selecting the Founder's inheritor. Mikasa decides she wants to do some eavesdropping, but Armin tries to stop her. But it turns out there's no need to, because suddenly Zachary's office explodes. Mikasa grabs Armin and shields him from the blast. We can see the explosion outside, and a body comes falling out of the building. And it's Zachary. Zachary, the leader and commander of all the factions of the military, is dead. Armin and Mikasa get out of there, and outside Hitch asks them what happened. Mikasa replies, I don't know. And then behind them, the crowd starts going even crazier. They're saying, our anger has reached them. I'm joining the fight, too. So am I. Let us bring victory to the new Eldian Empire. Devote your hearts. And then they start chanting, devote your hearts, devote your hearts. That is eerie. That is creepy. That is, like, eerie in a really ironic way. Our characters seem to be finding themselves in the exact same position of the people they were fighting against in the Uprising arc. In the next scene, we see a debriefing of the explosion. It says that a bomb was planted in Zachary's personal custom chair. 4 soldiers, including himself, were lost in the attack. Which is interesting because we only saw 3 soldiers enter his office. So who was the 4th soldier? They're also informed that the culprits and their goals are still unknown. Then Armin says, that chair. Yes, that fucking chair. He said that the recruits brought it in, but a little bit before we went to his office, we saw a few recruits running away. They were from the Survey Corps. Niall starts talking about how some of the Survey Corps members he's heard are going to be punished for leaking information, and then someone bursts through the door and says, it's an emergency! Eren Jaeger has escaped from his cell! Holy crap. He says he used the power of his Titan to instantly create an escape route before fleeing, and then sealed the hole behind him so that no one could follow. Niall orders them to mobilize all the soldiers and start searching for him. Mikasa and Armin are left just standing there, kind of in shock, with everything going on all of a sudden. She's just like horrified. Now they both look horrified, and she asks Armin, what's going on right now? After that, we cut straight to Eren. We see him walking around in the middle of nowhere with no shirt on, because who needs shirts when you're Eren Jaeger? He meets up with Flock and a bunch of his other minions, walks up to them and he says, big group, how many are here? Flock says, we have more comrades beyond the ones present here, like the jailers who freed us from our cells and told you to come here today. They are also our comrades within the corps, as are those who blew Darius Zachary away with a bomb. We did so because the military government was moving forward with a plan to have someone more convenient to them inherit your founder, even though you are the only one who can save our Eldian Empire, Eren Jaeger. So Flock hands him a jacket, similar to that black hooded jacket that Eren's been wearing throughout the series here and there. Eren doesn't say much to them after that, though. He puts the jacket on and he turns around and he just says, I'll locate Zeke. That's it. Now before we get to the last couple panels, I want to talk about this scene a little bit, because Eren's true intentions are still ambiguous. We still don't know what exactly he is doing. Yes, he escaped. Yes, he hasn't been very forthcoming, but based on his interaction with Flock and these other people, who he really doesn't seem to be terribly interested in, I don't get the feeling that he's totally on the same page with them either. See, I don't think Eren is being controlled necessarily by anyone. I mean, there's a possibility that Zeke is manipulating him, as I said before, but I'm starting to think more and more that I'm just not giving Eren enough credit. I think Eren really does have his own goals in mind, and his own ideology, just as Yelena was hoping for. And I don't think it's necessarily aligned with Zeke's, or even to bring back this Eldian Empire that everybody's chanting about. I don't really get the feeling that Eren really gives a shit about revitalizing this Eldian Empire. I really think Eren is still doing what he's doing based on the same goals that he's always had, and that is protecting the people he cares about. But of course, considering the fact that Armin and Mikasa almost just got blown up, he's not doing a very good job. Still, whatever he is doing, whatever he's planning on doing, whatever it is, it's so important that he is willing to put the people whose lives he cares about at risk. Eren has become a very complicated character, and also someone who's really hard to read. For somebody who used to wear all of his emotions on his sleeve, this is quite a change for Eren. But of course, we've talked all about that in previous videos, as to why he's become the way he is. But still, my point is, the way that he hardly engages with these people, and he just turns their back on them, and says, "I'll locate Zeke, that's it." That's interesting to me. What does he mean by "that's it"? It almost sounds like he's saying, that's all I'm gonna do for you people, because I don't really care about your goals. But then again, if Eren doesn't care, then how is he protecting anyone? As I said, it's really hard to tell where Eren is at right now, obviously, as many of our characters have pointed out. But I don't feel like Eren is really keen on this reverence for him, this godlike position that he's been put in. Remember, Eren went through that whole thing about finding out how not special he was. So he's already come to terms with the idea of not being the savior, not being humanity's hope. But then again, maybe not. Maybe he still feels that inadequacy that he used to feel back then. And with Flock and these other followers, this situation has presented an opportunity for him to in fact be special, be important, and to actually accomplish his goal of saving the people of Paradis, of saving his home. Eren himself has never expressed any real affinity for these followers of his, or Yelena. He's only ever showed any respect and reverence, really, to Zeke. Now it could be that Eren is just so focused on what he wants to do, that he just doesn't want to bother with wasting any time talking to Flock or any of these guys, or maybe they're going with him. Kinda got the impression that Eren was gonna go off on his own. It seems like he could probably find Zeke a lot faster that way, but they could be going along with him, which depending on how far they are, could be an interesting Exodus-like scenario similar to the one that we saw in the end credits of Season 2. I mean, look at that landscape. And another question is, what's gonna happen when Eren does find Zeke? Obviously we know Levi is there, so it's gonna be really interesting to see what's gonna happen when Eren shows up. As I said before, it seems like Eren has some reverence for Zeke, but he also has a lot of respect for Levi. So it's going to be interesting to see how Eren deals with this. Hopefully Levi isn't going to get really fucked up in this situation, and hopefully Eren isn't going to let Zeke kill him or something, or kill him himself, or whatever Eren's gonna do. Oh gosh. If Eren kills Levi, I'm really gonna hate him. Like, I think I might actually hate Eren if that happens. I don't want to hate you, Eren, so don't do that, okay? Like, I really like the character that you've developed into. Please don't make us hate Eren that much, Isayama. But anyway, could they use the coordinate right away? Are they just gonna have a little chat? What do you guys think is gonna happen? Tell me in the comments. Okay, last 2 pages, we see Mikasa and Armin in a carriage with Hanji and Anya. Armin still being hopeful, even though Eren is long gone by now. And then we see, as the carriage passes by, a mysterious figure in a hood sitting by the well reading the newspaper. We know who that is, don't we? Hello, Peak. What are you doing here? So obviously this leaves us with a lot of questions, doesn't it? Like, what in the good god hell is going on? Who really is behind all of this? Who organized all of this? How was this put together? With all of the volunteers under confinement, with Zeke under constant surveillance by Levi, who was it that organized Zachary to be blown up with a bomb? And then at the same time, have Eren escape from his cell. Peak, was it you? How rude. Somebody planned all of this. And I guess I'm willing to bet that it's probably Peak right here. It looks like she's been wandering around Paradis for who knows how long. We get a shot of her at the very end, so it must be Peak. The question is, how did she get here? I mean, she couldn't have snuck onto the blimp when they escaped from Marley with Eren and Zeke, and she couldn't have been on one of those ships. I mean, they would have found her, right? So at some point she came over here, maybe by herself, or maybe there's a few others with her. There's one thing that we know, that if Peak is here, then that spells a lot of trouble for our Paradisians. So like I said, we don't know who else might be here with her, or what else she might be planning. How many people are really involved in this plot? I think it's safe to say that what Reiner said to Captain Magath about doing a preemptive strike, he probably listened to him. And what's happening now is the result of that. We're not sure yet if Zeke is aware of what happened to Commander Zachary, or if he was involved in it at all. One thing we know for sure though, this is definitely the beginning of the counterattack we've been waiting for from Marley. Now Peak's situation is interesting as well, because as we know, Peak was loyal to Zeke, and by leaving with the Survey Corps, he kind of betrayed her, except maybe not. Maybe she knew about all this the whole time, and has been keeping it a secret. Obviously we've seen that Zeke and Peak are pretty close. I mean, she's absolutely right, all the time, and Zeke really likes to point that out. But anyway, that's another big question too. Is Marley planning to save Zeke, or do they want to punish him for his betrayal? Obviously based on the conversation that Reiner and Captain Magath had with the other warriors, it didn't seem like they were aware of Zeke's plans to do this. However, we can't say that for sure about Pike. Like I said, considering how close these two seem to be, and also Pike's intelligence, and I also feel like she has a very strong sense of loyalty to Zeke as well. I wouldn't be surprised if she was in on it the whole time. So, I guess we're just gonna have to see what's gonna happen next. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching my Attack on Titan Chapter 110 review. Sorry it's so late. The next one will be out much sooner, hopefully, and if I don't get sick again. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Tell me what you thought of the chapter in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, comment, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.